Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unshackled for Life. We're unlocking prosperity and liberating wealth. I'm your host, John Green, and in today's episode, we're going to dive into a crucial topic for young adults. We're talking about financial planning and budgeting. Specifically, we're going to talk about avoiding debt and managing your budget effectively. So that's the plan today. All right. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us again. I know it's been a moment since I've done an episode. I apologize for that. I was under the weather, but feeling much better now. So let's get into today's episode. So my focus today is really for the younger crowd. I'm talking the Gen Zers as well as the Generation Y, those in their 20s and 30s. And what I want to talk about is how to manage your money when you're just starting out in life. All right. One of the things that is probably most common is people come out of school or, they, whether it's high school or college, and they get their first job and their first real check. And, when you start to see, those commas and extra numbers there in those paychecks, you start to instantly think of all the wonderful things you can do. So what I want to do is kind of talk to you, the younger folks, and ask all of you to kind of calm down, slow down, and learn some financial literacy before you do something that you're going to regret. All right. And take it from someone who is a lot older, who definitely regrets a lot of the things I did when I was younger with money. So that's my hope today. Okay. So I'd like to talk about some of the quick, some of the big ticket things that usually get young people in trouble, myself included when I was younger. Things such as your housing, your transportation, definitely what you spend on entertaining yourself, as well as all these little subscription services that ultimately, they just kind of slowly drain your bank account. So what I would like for you to do is to start off by just taking a quick inventory of what you're spending each month. Be aware of that number of what your monthly bills come out to. And also be aware of what your monthly income is. Okay. By knowing those two numbers, basically what's coming in and what's going out, that alone will give you a good foundation on how to start building more wealth, and just to start taking control of your finances. But let's start now. Let's kind of go into what average monthly expenses are. So, according to a Forbes study, average monthly expenses for a single person is somewhere around $3,500 a month. That's pretty high in my opinion, but 3,500 a month, and like I said, that includes things like housing, transportation, food, entertaining yourself, subscriptions, just all of those things. Just kind of taking an account of everything, what it costs the average American that's single. Okay, the average single American. So we're gonna say, we'll just call it 3,500 for the rest of the show, even though it's really closer to 3,700. But let's call it 3,500. So maybe you're there, maybe you're below it or above it, just wherever you are, it doesn't really matter. What I want you to do is to be in control of your finances. Don't let your finances control you. I want you to be in control. So I'm going to give you some tips today on how to take control of your finances. I'll also tell you some things to watch out for, um, in ways you can grow your money to make yourself a more viable, a financially viable adult. All right. Because I'm gonna tell you, if you start now, if you start somewhere in your, 20s to early 30s, then when you get to my old age of close to 50, you're gonna be so far ahead of the game. It's not even gonna be funny. You're gonna be so proud of yourself and so glad that you took control of your money when you were young. And as I talk to you, I want I just kind of want you to be aware that I have a young daughter who's in her 20, or in her early 20s, and this message applies to her as well. These are the things that I would definitely tell my own daughter. So let's get into some numbers and some meat of this. Um, so biggest expense is housing, right? Biggest expense is housing. So when you think about coming out of college and you definitely want to get out of mom and dad's house and be on your own, right? I encourage that. Some people will say that's a fault of American culture because we're in such a rush to get out of the house. And when you look at some other cultures, you'll see other people living with their parents for a few years and saving money, and then they're able to go buy houses. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, that's not a bad idea. That's actually a very solid strategy. I support it. I support it. But if you tease your parents, I'm not gonna lie, in my own current situation, I've been teased as an empty nester. I kind of dig this life. I dig this life coming home and it's just me and my wife. I love it. I love it. I don't know if I want my daughter coming back, but if you can, if you're able to go and live a year or two at home to save money, to kind of to create a down payment for a house, that's an awesome opportunity. You might want to take advantage of that. But if not, let's say you are going out to get yourself an apartment. um I didn't look up stats for what the average rent is, but here in Houston, I'm guessing that it's probably somewhere around $1,500. I'll say, yeah, it's probably close to $1,500 for a one bedroom apartment. Um, and if I'm wrong on that, if it's more than that, God bless you all. God bless you all. But you know, I know two bedrooms are closer to 2,000. I do know that. So I'm not too sure what that difference is between a one bedroom and a two bedroom. But but if rent is $1,500, let's say, and I don't know how much money you're making. I don't know what the average income is, um or your specific situation. But when you think about it, you know if let's say you're making close to $4,000 a month, $1,500, that's probably about as high as I would want you to be, as far as in paying for rent. um just because I think once you get beyond like 33% of your income going towards housing, I think you're starting to get yourself into a dangerous area where you're going to be, you're not going to be in a great position to find savings. So try to keep your housing down below 33% of your income, just as a rule of thumb. These are just numbers that I'm coming up with. Some people suggest less than 25%. I'm trying to be realistic for someone in their 20s and 30s. I don't think that's quite realistic unless you're going to be living just in the hood of the hood, and I don't recommend that for anybody. Um, the next thing, second biggest expense is probably transportation. So just as I said, we get out of college and or school and we get our first job and our first paycheck and we start to think of, ooh, what car can I buy? And you know, and it's such a trap. Buying a vehicle nowadays is such a trap. Think of yes, the monthly payment might only be, I don't know, $400 for, I don't know, your average vehicle. But you got to know what that $400 a month means. So you have to understand what's the interest rate. You have to understand what is the term of that loan. How long are you going to be paying that $400? If you're paying that for 6 years for 72 months, you really have to start to wonder if that's really worth your while, because 6 years is a very long time. A 72-month car note is not a good thing. That's not that's a liability, young people. It's a liability. And you're basically signing up to spend $400 for the next 6 years of your life for a vehicle that might not even last that long. And even if it does that last that long, you may find yourself not even wanting that vehicle anymore. And and I warn you not to get into things like leases. Leases are even worse. That's like renting a car. It's like you're basically throwing money into this car, and a few years, 2 or 3 years down the line, it's time to trade that joker in and you have absolutely zero equity in anything. Not to say cars are an asset. They're not. They're a liability. They go down in value. If you listen to any financial guru, they'll tell you the same thing. Cars are not an asset. They are liabilities. Best thing to do is just try to get a vehicle that you can pay off quickly, if not buy with cash just from the get go. But don't allow yourself to have these big expenditures. Having big expenditures does not make you an adult. Yes, most adults have big expenditures, but something I've learned in my life is having those big expenditures. Hey, they don't make you popular. They don't make you cool. I think what's cooler is to not have a car note. I think it's cooler when you can say, hey, that $400 that the average person is probably spending on a car note, hey, I'm investing that money. I'm not putting that towards a car. Just something to think about. All right. Other things that get us in trouble, credit cards. That's probably next on the list. Um, you'll definitely start to get credit card offers. I'm sure you probably got them in college. I know I did. Um, but with those credit cards, again, we're talking high interest debt. We're talking something that we you might see a lot of adults using those credit cards and using them to supplement their lifestyles. Don't be that adult. Be different. Don't have the credit card debt. What I want to really emphasize to young people is the goal is to not have hands in your pocket. You don't want these companies with their hands in your pocket. Reduce those things. All right? I'm so serious about that. Like, as a young adult, I remember having, getting all these bills in the mail, and yes, in my head, I was thinking that I was adulting, but in hindsight, it sucked then, and now as an older adult, man, it sucks now having all those bills come in the mail and all that stuff. So the goal is not to have that. The goal is to have your money and to use your money the way you want to use it, not to find ways to be in debt. So please take control of your money. Take control of your finances. Um, when it comes to credit cards, I mean, you're talking 25%, 24, 25% is the average interest rate. That's a lot of money. Just the same thing is, you have all these predatory type loans and practices that you have to avoid. Credit cards is a big one. Others would include payday loans and title loans, things like that. Stay away from that stuff. Try not to put yourself in a situation where you need to borrow money, for an emergency. So the secret to that is to have an emergency fund. So if you have a few $1,000s put to the side, chances are you won't need credit cards. Chances are you're not going to need anything like a payday loan because you already have money ready for those emergencies. All right? So that's something I encourage you to do is to put together a few $1,000s. When you're starting out and you're young, you don't really need a whole lot. I would say if you put $3,000 to the side, especially if you're like renting and if your car is paid for, chances are $3,000 will be enough for most emergencies. Um, the biggest emergencies are probably going to involve your car. So, $3,000 may not buy a transmission or a new engine, but it will take care of things like tires, brakes, windshield, and some other things that, some of those other smaller things, a battery, other small things that might break on your vehicle. All right. So, have an emergency fund. That emergency fund it'll serve as the foundation of your financial stability. And if you have it, you're going to see a lot of your friends struggle, and you're going to find that, hey, you don't have the same struggles that they do because you're in a position where you have that money put to the side, and you'll find stability in that. You'll find some you'll find a sense of insurance from that emergency fund. All right, let's see. What other things can I tell you? Just as some words of advice. Uh, I would tell young people to be mindful of all of those subscriptions, all of those monthly subscriptions. Think of them like little leeches that are attaching to you and just sucking money from your bank account. That's what a lot of them are. Stay on top of those. Stay on top of those things. Um, I strongly recommend having some sort of way to monitor those things. I know that there's an app. What is it? The Rocket Money app that claims to kind of watch over that. Use something like that. Don't let those subscriptions get the best of you. When you find that you're not using some of those things, cancel them. They're, if you realize that, hey, I haven't used this in 2 months, you probably don't need it. Just cancel it. You don't need to have that thing just leeching from your bank account. I don't care if it is only $5 a month or $10 a month. You keep adding those up. Now you're taking more and more money from your account that you could be using to invest. So be mindful of those. Other things. Let's see. What else do we have here? Let's see. So far we've talked about being smart about housing. We've talked about uh, vehicles. Make sure that you don't buy too big of a vehicle, too much of a vehicle. All right. Um, I'm not totally against borrowing for a vehicle, but I do recommend that you be very aware of the term for that vehicle. I wouldn't recommend spending more than 3 years, probably more like 2 years paying off a vehicle. Um, just don't want to get in that, you don't want to get in that comfort zone of keeping car payments. Like it's just a big drain. It's just a big hit on your monthly expenses. Um, what else? Let's see. So let's see. Here's some thoughts. I'm reading something here that I found on the internet. I'm gonna read some things, just some tips to help you avoid debt. Uh, things that you don't have to do all of these things, but just listen to them and think about them. All right. So we talked about building an emergency fund. So we've already talked about that. I'm gonna throw a number. I already threw a number out there. I said about $3,000, especially when you're starting out. I think that's a good emergency fund. I would try to save up, $3,000 real quick and just put that into a savings account and just let it sit there. Just don't even worry about it. It just set it and forget it. Okay? Now, other tips to keep you financially stable and financially strong as a young adult. Number 1, live within your means. Don't go out trying to show off and trying to floss and, you know, end up spending more than you actually make. All right? So live within your means. Um if you're going to use student loans, make sure that you're paying those off timely. All right? Make sure you're getting those things paid off. You don't want to default on those. You're going to mess up your credit. And once you mess up your credit, you're going to find that it's a lot harder to get loans for stuff that, loans later in life, like when you're trying to buy a house or even if you're trying to buy another car. All right. Uh, when you're paying, pay off debt as fast as you can, especially, try to stay away from credit cards. But if it's too late, you already have credit card debt, try to get those debts paid off quickly. Don't believe for a moment that having a bunch of debt makes you an adult. All right? That's not true. I'm an adult. I don't have a lot of debt right now. All right? The only debt I really have is my house. And even that, I plan on having that paid off in the next few years. So, try not to carry a lot of debt. Automate savings. That's a cool one. I kind of like that. So once you get yourself stable, you have that emergency fund, you have things under control, debts paid off. Man, go ahead and start saving. Automate your retirement savings. Make sure that, if you have a job that offers a 401k and they match money, take advantage of that. Make sure that you're not losing out on those opportunities. That's free money from your job. So if they have a 5% match, make sure that you're investing at least 5% of your money into that 401k, so that way your company can add on another 5%. It's almost like a nice little raise. All right, you won't realize it until you retire, but it's still money that is free money, so don't miss out on it. Don't allow peer pressure to get the best of you. That's a good tip. Continue learning about personal finance. Continue to read about money. Continue to try to understand it. I know you're young, but think about retirement. Think about think about products such as 401ks and Roth IRAs. If your company has a Roth 401k, that's better than a regular 401k. If you're not sure why, read about it. Roth, ROTH. All right. Roth 401k versus a regular 401k. All right. Um, Try not to borrow for non-essentials. I like that. One of the worst things, I remember one time I put gas on a credit card and put, $40 of gas on a credit card. And I mean, I can't tell you how much I probably spent on that $40 of gas, because that really probably cost me more like $100 by the time I finally paid that stupid credit card off. And just keep an eye on, monitor your credit. And even though you're young, it's not too early to try to find a financial advisor. All right. Might be kind of hard where some of them may not want to talk to you because they're like, "Oh, you're young, you're silly, whatever. You don't know what you're doing yet." But you're not too young. If you have, if you're already showing interest in taking control of your money, chances are you're gonna be okay. So, you know, I encourage you to continue seeking financial advice. I encourage you to continue your financial literacy, your financial education, continue to grow your money. Um, you know, don't be afraid to ask other people questions about, just about how to manage money. There are a lot of people out here who will have good advice for you. All right. But anyways, hey y'all, I hope, my hope is that some of this information has helped you out. Um, there's definitely a lot here today. There's a lot going on nowadays. With young people. You all have a lot of things to worry about. But I will tell you, if you get control of your money, then you'll be putting yourself in a good position with some of those other things. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick recap. So, on today's episode, we did talk about things. My message is mainly for the younger folks, those who are in their 20s to early 30s. Really want you to take control of your money. So, words of advice: make a budget, be aware of what's coming in and what's going out. Continue to monitor those things, especially, with that first year of your real job. Just kind of monitor what's going in, what's going out. Don't lose sight of that. As you make big choices, as you make big decisions, such as where to live and what sort of car to drive, make sure that that you're taking into consideration how much money you really make. All right. Try to have yourself an emergency fund. Be very aware of where your money is going, where you're spending, how you're spending. Try not to, try not to fall into peer pressure. Try not to, don't allow peers to dictate how you spend your money. You might have some friends who are not in the same position as you financially, and they may ask for a handout. And when that happens, I didn't really talk about this, but I'll talk about it now. But when that happens, don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to tell them, "Hey, I have plans for this money, and I'm sorry that you're in the situation that you're in. I can try to help you get into a better situation, but I don't have money that I can give you at this moment." That's not a fun place to be, but don't be afraid to tell people no when it comes to your money. All right. All right. So anyways, I think that's it all. So I would like to thank you again for listening to Unshackled for Life. I'm your host, John Green. We're unlocking prosperity and liberating wealth. I hope that today's message has resonated well. If you'd like to find out more about us, please visit our website at www.unshackledforlife. That's www.unshackled4life.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Unshackled for Life. And hey, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Peace and love, everybody. Have a good day. Be blessed.